All right, it's 2:32, October 10th. We're going to start our October meeting. Mary has sent out the attendance, so if you've received the attendance, please participate, and that again is for voting senators. If you are not a voting senator, please make sure you sign in on the sign-in sheet. If you haven't already, you can always hit it on the way out the door. So one of the things that we had discussed, and I forgot to do it for September because it's new for us at College Senate, but we're going to start each meeting by reading the charge of the College Senate. And then moving forward, it's not going to be just me every single time. We're going to move it around, perhaps members of the Senate Executive Committee, or maybe anyone not paying attention in the audience, and we'll have you read it. All right, some good old-fashioned teacher discipline. So I'm going to start this month by reading it first. All right, so the College Senate is the central component of shared governance at Erie Community College. The College Senate studies, discusses, and makes resolutions on matters pertaining to the core academic mission of the college and to the interrelationships among academics and the other functional areas of the college, such as budgeting, student services, and workforce development. And so with that, that wouldn't be possible without all of our dedicated employees. And I wanted to just take a moment to recognize some of our staff and faculty that have put lots of time in to SUNY Erie. I know she's not around right now, but our 40-year mark is Gail Frazier. She's been in the president's office. 35 years. See, we got Paul Daniel up in front, a few others that have been at the college for 35 years. "30 years. There's a lot of math in there, and several other areas, so thank you for those with 30. 25. And then 20 years, oh, that's really small. Sorry. I think that's actually on 2 slides. There are so many people, a lot of people hit that milestone this year. A lot of people that hit 20 years. Yeah, there's 2. Oh, and then of course it's larger on the second page, of course. So thank you to those that hit 20 years. And then same thing, 15 is also a little bit smaller. We had a lot of people hit 15. That's over 2 slides as well. Yeah, there I am. Brian Millville as well. A couple others. And then a whole bunch of people that hit 10 years. So, and again, that's kind of small. But, so I tried to hit all the zeros and 5s, 10 years and beyond. So, Erickson is up there as well for 10 years. So thank you to all of our faculty and staff that have dedicated tons of time to ECC. Gordy.
I'm done after this year.
All right, Gordy's done after this year. What's your number, man?
What was that?
What's your number?
31.
Oh, see, that's why you're not on there. Sorry. You were on it last year.
Right.
You were on it last year. I did do this last year for everyone that is in the in-betweeners. So because I did it last year, I decided just to do the 0s and the 5s this year. So we'll send that out, and that's on the College Senate website as well. So a few other things that we will be talking about that also is central to the College Senate. And I'm sure Dr. Segai will be addressing the Title III grant that we received. Of note, we were one of 3 institutions in the Western New York area that received that. Villa Maria and Damon also did. So they give out 30 per year, and Western New York got 3 of them. So that's a really, really awesome and great for SUNY Erie. More details will be coming out as we roll that out. I talked to Kathy Colesto about it. We're going to be giving more details in the November meeting. We're still waiting to meet with some of the people from the federal Office of the Title to go through the details on how we're going to roll it out at SUNY Erie. So stand by for that. Full rollout, though, is still expected for spring, and as people know more, we will be sending it out more. The gala for the foundation is on November 2nd, so don't forget about that. Oh, I want to thank Connie Engler out of HR who helped me with that list. I'm sorry I didn't thank her sooner. Thank you, Connie. Open house is in November, so it'll be November 7th, 8th, and 9th from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. at each of the separate campuses. North will be November 7th, South will be November 8th, and City will be November 9th. And then the last thing I have to add before I turn it over to Dr. Sagai is commencement. So Dan Frontera couldn't be here to join us today, but he's looking for volunteers for faculty and staff to help with different areas. So we're going to be adding to the student experience. We need more faculty to participate. We're going to be leading students out by division, and we'll need faculty for that as well. So mark your calendars. It is Wednesday, May 22nd at 6 p.m. at Buffalo State College. Did I get it all, Amy? All right, I got the thumbs up. All right, so with that, we are ready to roll for our October meeting. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Sagai for her report of the officer in charge.
Thank you, Colleen. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Just to kind of lead right from that graduation event, one of the things that I want us to think about completion for our students, and one of the things that we talk about, and certainly I talk about with our students, especially our new students, is the idea for students to know their graduation date. So I want to challenge us today to ask all of our students if they know the day that they're going to be graduating from our college. Again, that puts it in perspective, and that also puts it sort of for us to think about completion, right? Part of that is really what we have been getting, and I know Colleen talked a little bit about the Title III grant, is really focusing on success. What does that look like for us? And the Title III grant really focuses on building a comprehensive student orientation. We started that. We have a lot of work to do in terms of really having a comprehensive orientation. But orientation just doesn't end with those 3 days or 2 days of event, but it's really that entire first semester or first year for our students. The other piece that is really important to make sure that our students are successful and get to that finish line is comprehensive academic advisement. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about some academic advisement concerns that we're dealing with right now. But really, what does that look like for us as a college? And that's something that we need to talk about. And then the other thing that the grant is really addressing is really gatekeeper courses. And we're doing a lot of good things with that work. That was work that was done before, specifically in English and math. So those are some of the things that we're going to be investing in that grant. And to Colleen's point, we're going to get a lot more detailed information in regards to that. Just other grant that I think is important to talk about, the SUNY Transformational Fund. That's also $1 million. Did I mention the Title III, $2.2 million? Did I mention that? Let's clap. That's a lot of money, right? That's huge, right? But again, you have to see this, right? A lot of these grants are really focusing on this idea of student success. So the SUNY Transformation Fund, $1 million, and that's talking about how do we create a successful model for our students, similar to the EOP model. Is one of the things that we're going to be piloting starting the spring semester, and we're going to get more information on that. Another grant that we also are part of is the Northland Workforce Training Center. They are partnering with us, $1 million grant that is going to focus on an auto tech certificate program at Northland, with the idea of having to start this program in the fall semester of 2024. So those are some of the things that we're doing as it relates to grant and how we could really focus on that student. With that, I want Colleen to really talk a little bit about this event that we had last week with student engagement. And Colleen, can we just talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Well, big shout out to Kim Krul, I think she walked in, who coordinated this whole event. We had a wonderful student conference last week, coordinated by Kim and a whole slew of other counselors, deans, and volunteers. We had 150 plus students attend, which is 3 times as many as we had last year. We got a shuttle from the city campus to bring in many of our city students. We, of course, offered it to South as well, but they didn't need that. We had Dr. Carl Stokes do the opening and kickoff, and then a bunch of great workshops. We had outside vendors who we collaborate with, Dress for Success and International Institute, Feed More, all kinds of great vendors that we work with, and our students were just thrilled. Kim, do you want to add anything?
You got to go to the mic.
Yes, we just want to say thank you to everyone who participated, contributed their time, their efforts, and their commitment to the event. We look forward to hosting another one in the near future, and look forward to everyone's continue to support our students' engagement and their well-being at the college. And hopefully all these efforts help us with our retention and our students to completion and giving them activities that they can be proud of. Thank you.
And just lastly, I want to echo what Colleen Quinn mentioned about our faculty and staff, right? The key in order for our students to be successful, it's really about our faculty and staff. So we matter in the work that we do. So on that note, I really want to thank you for everything that you do day in and day out. It's because of all of us and because of all the work that we do that our students will get to that point of graduation. So thank you for all the work that you do every day. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much. We're going to move to the approval of the minutes from the September 2023 College Senate meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the September minutes? Gordy. Second, Amy Yoder. Any abstentions? Or actually, any comments or discussion? I'm supposed to ask for another thing, but I can't remember what it is. Tom Webb, what is it? Where is he? Oh. Any disagreements? There's another word, but that's what it means. All right, so we're going to say that that passes by consent. Thank you very much. We're going to move to Old Business Governance Committee, Michael Rio.
We have a parliamentarian now, Tom Webb. We're very
We got to
excited.
vote on it still.
Is it an appointment or a vote? Who are we asking? Let's vote. Why not? It's so much fun.
All right, do you want to do that now?
Sure, let's have
All right,
a
Michael
vote.
Rio,
We
would
need a
you like to
motion.
make a motion to approve Tom Webb as the College Senate parliamentarian?
I do, enthusiastically.
All right. Second, Derek? Do we do all in favor? All right, all in favor? All right, not in favor? Abstentions? All right, the motion passes. Thank you, Tom Webb. We've been without a parliamentarian for a while. Michael Delaney's been doing it from Hamburg via the sink and texts me anytime that I need to take care of something. So I'm waiting to see if he texts me about the word that I forgot that I'm still not able to remember. So Michael, if you're watching, feel free to go ahead and text me that word. But thank you, Tom. And Michael, back to you for governance.
We're still trying to fill some seats, some faculty seats. We have 6 vacancies, and we have 3 vacancies for the non-voting liaisons. Once we fill those, we're going to move to have an election for a voting liaison, which is also, there's also an empty seat there. I think that's all we have.
All right, great, thank you.
Yep.
Objections? The English teacher up here helped us out with that word. So with the non-voting liaisons, just an update on that, I did send the list up to the provost's office for appointments, and we'll work with Dr. Sagai on that. And once we have all of those vacancies filled, we will do an election for the one remaining non-voting liaison to voting election once all those are filled. And if you are a faculty member watching and you are interested in serving on the College Senate, we can also do at-large appointments to fill the vacancies. And at-large can actually be any employee of the college. It does not need to be a faculty member. So what we usually try to do is exhaust through the divisions of where openings are. We have gotten to that point. So if there is anyone who is interested in serving in the College Senate that may not necessarily fit into the divisions where there are openings, again, we can appoint you to be an at-large member through the remainder of the academic year. And to be an at-large member, you just have to be an employee of the college. So anyone who's an employee who gets a paycheck is eligible. Middle states in the strategic plan, Kathy isn't able to be here today, so I'm going to move it over to, Adiam.
Yes, sure. Thank you. Just to, we have a visit that's coming on October 23rd and 24th. Vision Care Technology Department is getting a visit from the accreditation body. I want to thank John Gar and all of his team for really putting the necessary material together. So look forward to that visit.
Okay, and updates on enrollment, Erickson?
Yep, thank you. This is an exciting time in terms of our enrollment. We have some good indications of where we stand at this point. Official numbers for what's called the Early Student Survey to SUNY is reported out on November 1st. So some of these numbers here will change. But based on preliminary estimates at this time, we have a good idea of where we stand in terms of different higher education categories. So when we look at new students coming in, this is first-time students as well as transfer. We are, based on these early projections, stabilizing compared to last year, with some indications suggesting slight increases compared to the year prior. That is noteworthy because at the end of last year, again, based on preliminary numbers, we did see an increase in first-time student enrollment compared to the year priors based on FTE. Where the greatest opportunity once again lies is with our continuing student category. Currently, we're sitting at a little less than 3,900 continuing returning students. That right now is an early forecast is projected to be between 6 and 7% down from the prior year. So keeping our students here, making sure that they're able to succeed and graduate. I think it's tremendous then the amount of effort that's being had to increase student retention, student success, persistence as it's related to the Title III grant, the transformation grant, that's so key. The other thing too I just wanted to take a moment to highlight is that when you hear these different enrollment numbers, please note that we are an institution that has a variety of different enrollment categories. So we have a rather robust, what we call advanced studies, which is called concurrent high school enrollment category here. We're currently sitting at 1,100 students based on that category. That's probably going to be stable to where we were last year, especially based on credit hour activity. And then I just reported out on our non-high school enrollment. We also have around 1,000 students per semester that are in our Pathways program. This includes the EAL as well as GED pathways with both our on-campus as well as off-campus partners, as well as our pre-collegiate math and English as well. So when I say the grand total, it's always imperative to know that a good portion of those numbers are those non-high school students at this point in time, including where we are with Pathways, high school enrollment, as well as our overall matriculated students that are here on campus.
Great. Does anyone have any questions regarding enrollment for Erickson? Okay, so academic assessment. Dr. Sabrina Kane is not here, so I have a couple of updates that we discussed that I can share. If anyone is here that can expand on it, just raise your hand and let me know. But Nuventive is no longer with us. RIP Nuventive. Not really. I think we're all excited about that. But so what are we doing instead? Program review and 5-year plan. All that is still in motion. There's not going to be any delay. There's Microsoft Teams spreadsheets with all of the Nuventive data is available to your assessment coordinators for each of your divisions and departments. So everything from Nuventive is stored there. So if you are working on your 5-year program review or anything like that, please double check those Teams sites to make sure everything is there. If there's something that you need that is not there, just reach out to Sabrina Kane or Kathy Calesto, and she can get that information for you, but it should be all present. Kathy has developed a Microsoft form. I haven't seen it, but there's a form that is much easier as far as filling it out to put all of your information in there for assessment and program and unit reviews. So if you're up with all that, they will reach out with additional details regarding that process. Does anyone have any additional information that can fill in the blanks for me? Or did I get them all? Got them all? Thank you. All right. 7.5-week courses normally is Dave Uzinski, but Brian Millville is filling in for him today from CWCC. Thank you, Brian.
Yep, no problem. Dave's en route from a class in City Campus. He sent me his talking points. One, the interested student should contact the Dean of Students email. That's dos@ecc.edu. Quick question, maybe you can get some clarification from Erickson or somebody. Should faculty be sending students' names to that email address, or students reaching out directly?
I would encourage sending them to that Dean of Students, so that this way a counselor can meet with the student, make sure that that 7.5-week class is a good option for them, especially then to make sure that they're starting off strong with that class.
Okay, thank you. Other thing Dave wanted to mention was that if you have a full-time student currently, that these courses will be essentially free besides the technology fee per credit hour for those students. So just keep that in mind. The run cancel date for that is 2 weeks from Thursday. It's October 26th. There was a few sections added because a couple were full. All right, so the BI 169 for the first section's already full that they have for the second 7.5 weeks. So they added another section of nutrition. Same with SO 100. Introduction to Sociology, and they added a BI 147, which is Survey to Anatomy and Physiology for any students that maybe were struggling in BI 150, Anatomy and Physiology 1, that maybe they could fall back into BI 147 to brush up, and get ready to try it again possibly in the spring semester. He also sent along some data just for the numbers, time and comparison. So in 2022, so last fall we had, at this point in time, 161 students registered total. That was from 3 courses in the first 7.5 weeks and 12 in the second. And this year we have right now 372. So quite a jump there, and with 3 courses again in the first 7.5 and 18 in the second 7.5. That's all he sent along.
Great, thank you, Brian. So with that, if you have students that you are trying to advise into these 7.5-week courses, please reach out to the Dean of Students email to get them hooked up with a counselor. As the takeaway I'm going to get for here, dos@ecc.edu, give the list of students and the courses that they are interested in taking. And additionally, there are some new sections, so if you have been working with students and a section that they might have been, Dave. We just did the 7.5-week courses, you're good, sorry. So if you have a student that was interested in a class and it might have been full, check the list again because a couple have opened. And with that, to bring up Brian's point with the BI 147, I think that's an awesome option for students, especially if they're right at that full-time mark, right? So instead of taking the F in the Anatomy and Physiology 1, they can flip over to the 147, maintain being full-time, maintain that GPA, and again, try to prep and retake for the spring. So kind of keep that option in the back of your mind for any students that might be struggling in that in particular. Also, please, if you are considering half semester courses or sequences, spring schedules are coming, so have those discussions with your department to try and get some more on the books for our students because they seem to be working out really well for them. Dave, would you like to add anything?
Just one thing. The only drawback, or not drawback, the only condition for a student not being able to take a 7.5-week course is if they already were registered for that class at the beginning of the semester. So they can't double dip. So that anything else though, so if they had a difficult time in psychology, like 100, and know they're not going to pass and they're going to withdraw eventually, they can take like Soc 100 or something as a substitute, since we added that back in. So one of the things I've been trying to tell my students and emphasize is that essentially if they're full-time, it's free. They're not really paying anything else. And I say essentially, there's a technology fee I think we're charging them. Andy, is there any other fee, or is that it? For full-time? I think so. So anyway, so I was trying to emphasize that if they wanted to try and get ahead, if they know a course isn't going well and they want to not lose ground to their graduation day, that would be a perfect time to do it.
Just to add to that, there's approximately 40% of our students are part-time students. And we're looking at the data to see why that is, right? But this is a huge opportunity for us to really encourage them, because we want to make sure that those students, now there could be variation because of financial or because of obligation outside the college, but it's, to me, compared to other schools, that's pretty significant in terms of 40% of our students in total being part-time students. So this could be a nice way, as you are advising students, to consider having them to perhaps be full-time status. So great opportunity for that.
Great, thank you. I've also been advising students that would maybe consider summer classes, but summer classes, depending on what their aid package is, may or may not be covered by financial aid. So again, to Dave's point, they're essentially free other than a tech fee, that they can, kind of knock out those summer classes, especially if they're feeling that they're doing really well in the semester, and they can kind of add on another class as they're working through the semester. Okay, Paul Danu, do you have anything to add with the facilities?
Just a very brief report. Spring Student Center work is mostly complete now. They're doing some minor touch-ups, and they're moving on to punch list items. The city roof has begun. That'll probably continue for another 3 to 4 weeks, depending on the weather, and then they'll get going again in the spring. The only room remaining for like outside repairs from the winter storm is room 460. They finished sanding it last week and are now staining it, and then we'll go to Poly and hope to have that done by the end of the probably next week. The last item, we're transitioning from air conditioning to heating. We started yesterday, and we expect to have that done by the end of the day Thursday. So we just ask your patience. It does take a little bit of time for these large spaces to warm up. That's it.
Great, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Paul? Okay. 3-week rosters. So we had that on the agenda last month, and during the meeting we had discussed how it is important for 3-week rosters to complete the NAs and things like that. And then after the fact, it became difficult to add students back into the 3-week roster. So I was wondering if we could have an update on the process and where we're moving forward with that. Does anyone want to take that?
So just some quick analysis that was done based on our timeline. It was September 25th was the timeline for the 3-week roster reporting. Never attend reporting impacted approximately 1,232 registrations at the college. Those are individual courses. 651 students. And of that, we can approximate 100 students were full drops based on non-attendance. I say approximation only because after the report closed, we continued to receive more and more requests to drop students. Approximately 26 faculty after that report closed submitted late, and then up through last week, continual requests due to reporting error to reinstate students. We've determined approximately 56% of the faculty had reported, which leaves us a pretty fair percentage of folks that did not submit anything. So the numbers I just estimated are strictly estimations, because I would venture to guess there's several more, if not 100 students that were not reported as never attend. We are starting to get those phone calls from students where one particular faculty member of theirs did not report. So it is certainly an issue, because these students are now receiving a bill for courses they had not attended. When we talk about error in reporting, the directive given to the registrar's office was that we needed to, in order to reinstate, determine that that error was valid. The two methods in which we did that was through physical signature of attendance in the course, as well as for online courses, an activity log that was generated through an ITS ticket. So that way it allowed us to determine that the student was in fact in attendance and that an error was made by the faculty that had reported.
Adia?
Thank you. Just to add to that, approximately how many students did we drop totally, Andy?
Right around 100.
Right. So that's a significant number of students. So I think part of the goal of doing this exercise is really to understand that entire process and really address why students are doing that. So we need to educate our students that if they are committed and they do register, that there is a process in the way that they should withdraw from school. And we want to encourage students and really educate them. But first, I think it's important to get the data and really get that accurate so we understand what is happening. So that's important. The other piece is that we made some changes as it relates to administrative drop. Part of it is that really student coming back to the college a year later or 2 years later saying, I never attended the school. I never sat in any of these classes, so I need my money back or I shouldn't be going to collections. So this is also to address some of that. So really is to really understand the process and streamline the process first so that we have a way to address some of this, but really is to get the students to sit in all of their classes if they register. If they didn't, if they can't sit though, then we need to find a way so that they appropriately could exit out or withdraw from their courses.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for the 3-week roster? Jeremy?
What if you don't do handwritten attendance and you just enter starfish in front of the room?
I do the same. I also didn't have a written record for my attendance.
I can take that.
Andy?
We did have a few instances of that. The student, one particular student I met with, had his notebook. He had dated all of his notes. We could confirm with the instructor that that was the content that was covered in the course. So that was sufficient proof of attendance.
Derek?
We were told that when in doubt, drop them and you could always add them back. And it sounds like that's not the case anymore.
Andy?
So yeah, at the Senate meeting that was covered. I was informed the Monday after the 3-week census date that process was not to be allowed.
So to clarify, they had a 43 minutes in and 52 minutes in the September College Senate meeting where we discussed 3-week rosters, and it was stated that we were better off to drop students to be added back later, and then we asked clarifying questions, and it was reiterated that that was the case. And so College Senate met on the 19th, reports were due on the 25th, and the rule changed on the 26th. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what I was informed of.
Okay. Amber?
Can we please get some clarification as to why the timeline wasn't communicated at all, or why that decision was made in the first place? Because it really feels as though it's a bit of an insult to faculty why we can't be trusted to make our own decisions as to when we can put students back in classes and when we cannot.
Adia?
Sure. So part of it is that for faculty to make that call. So it's my understanding that any faculty who deemed to know that the student needs to be reinstated back was reinstated. So that process didn't change, right? So it's my understanding that every request was allowed based upon the faculty's validation. So it's really for us to track the process more so than anything else. So if there's any faculty that was denied, let me know. But it's my understanding that if a faculty came and said, student X need to be reinstated, and this is why, and this is the evidence to suggest that the student was here or is able to, because I think one of the things that we need to really think about, right? Three weeks is a lot. But if the faculty is saying that and there's a way to work it out with the student, that's absolutely fine. So it's my understanding that piece has not changed. That policy, faculty deemed that. But the process and for us to capture the data is really what's different, is that we are capturing the data so we have a way to really track back to see what does that process look like and what that outcome looks like.
Amber?
Well, I think the problem still is the lack of communication, that if this decision was made in between the Senate meeting and the actual changing of the policy, which happened after the drops, and then the bigger problem being that it took a while to reinstate these students. So I know there were some professors who didn't have students put back into classes until week 5. So yes, 3 weeks is a long time. 5 weeks is a lot more to have students floating in limbo, especially when we start combining that with the problems with financial aid. Suddenly we have students that we're just not being very student-centered with, and it becomes very problematic for faculty members to have to deal with this.
Adiam?
Well noted.
Okay. So just to follow up, if a faculty member has a student that we requested to have put back on the roster, if that has not happened, we should have them email you, Adiam?
Not me.
Email the, who shall we email them?
How are we doing it? To the registrar's office? No, to Adrian. The process. I don't want to have my own new process.
Yes. All right, so,
yeah,
sorry.
certainly requests can come. At this point, the Pell calculation has occurred. So these are students that I'm assuming were reported as never attend, but now we're saying we're actually there.
Right.
So we'll accommodate the request. The student won't get aid. We did clear out all of our email through the reg email by Friday before financial aid had to run their census. We were still receiving reinstatement requests on Saturday and Sunday from faculty, but unfortunately that is too late.
Okay.
And just to clarify, those are first-time requests. These are not folks on Saturday and Sunday that had made the request that wasn't processed.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Dave?
So another concern, well, something else that seemed to have changed was I used to use the never attends as an opportunity to keep an internal wait list for my courses that were full. And so once those never attends were removed off my roster, since we weren't allowed to exceed our capacity, I would keep those students informed, and I was actually giving them, emails and saying, okay, it looks like I'm going to have 2 to 3 students who are never attended. I was not allowed this time to add those students back, and I had been doing it for the past 10 years, and it looked kind of incompetent on my part that I had to go back to them and sorry, the rules have changed this year, and I was not allowed to fill a vacant seat with a paying student who was going to pay tuition, that I was now not allowed to add that student. So could anyone comment on that change that happened at the same time with the NAs?
Adiam?
So let me just make sure I'm clear. So this scenario would be a brand new student who has never been in the course would be allowed to register in week 3.
Correct. They're already registered. They're accepted at ECC. They're either in another class, and they had been waiting to add my class. Like during the summer, they were, they had to take the calculus course. And I said, well, just hang in. I do add students after week 3, and I've done this for the last 10 years. And this year, I was not allowed to do that.
So I think we need to look at that with financial aid. I wasn't aware that we were doing that regularly. And I'm not sure, I'm not saying
it's regular. It was, it's maybe, I think in the last 6 semesters I went back and looked, it was
right, but in general,
15
I think
students.
this has a financial aid implication. So one of the things that we're doing is looking at to see 3-week roster. Is that normal procedure for other SUNY school? And what does that mean as it relates to financial aid? So we'll take that, Dave, and look into that to make sure that process is okay. I'm not sure on that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Derek?
But we were taught, when in doubt, drop them. And I'm not sure if that's what we're still saying. In other words, we were doing them a favor to drop them. We could always add them back. But maybe what we should be saying is, when in doubt, keep them. I don't know.
So again, I think, so we're dropping students because they never attended, right? And then we're bringing them back. If they come back and say, I want to come into that particular class, but they haven't been there for 3 weeks. So we have to just make sure that financially that we're in compliance to do that. That's similar to what Dave is saying, right? It's one thing if students showed up and they were in class and we track that attendance differently. It's my understanding that faculty track attendance very different. So I understand getting document to provide that. But if we're talking about students who have not sat for 3 weeks, have not been in the class, and we're dropping them because that's appropriate to do, that's what we've been operating as a college, we really need to check back to see, is that okay financially in compliance to really put them back in because they haven't been there before. So two different things, but I think we need to just look into it.
Tom?
Question on online people. If they sign into the course to look at it, but they don't do any assignments, is that considered, how am I supposed to treat a student like that?
Sorry.
Go ahead. Andy, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, we consider attendance to be attendance and participation to be participation. The 3-week roster is based on attendance, not academic performance or participation on activities, things of that nature.
Thank you.
So
Jeremy?
If they log in once the first day and then never log in again and don't complete assignments, we shouldn't drop them?
The student could come back and say they had attended, because that is the activity log that we would show as proof of attendance. It goes the other way as well. A student who attended once, who was dropped, comes back complaining, and they have proof they attended.
But wouldn't
Jeremy, you have to be recognized by the chair. Would you like to respond?
Wouldn't that be when we add them back?
Correct, if there's documented attendance. Yes.
Anyone else? I'm seeing people move microphones, so I'm not sure if that means like you're thinking about talking. Brian Millville.
I'll dip my toe in the water reluctantly. I think it would be good if we brought somebody in like Sarah from financial aid to discuss some of the financial aid implications to the students here, because if a student shows up once, and I'm in the same boat myself, I had a couple students that I contacted and I kept them on the roster. I've seen them twice. Now, they could be shooting themselves in the foot for their financial aid and their SAP percentage. They also could be costing the college money because we might have to send some of that money back. If I have to report my final grades and I give them an F and their last date of attendance was October 10th or whatever I mark it, that's before the withdrawal deadline. So that's prorated from the withdrawal deadline. So there's a lot of ins and outs, I would say, to think about in regard to all this.
I agree. I feel like that is something, because we haven't had a process or a procedure on the books regarding this situation at all. And a lot to even Tom's point about a login versus no login activity at all, like what is considered attendance, what is not, and where's the line, right? So it's a gray area at best right now, and it is something that's not consistent across the college. So perhaps that's something that we can look into for the future, for future semesters. Is there any other old business? Okay, we're going to move to new business. And this is regarding academic progress advisement in Workday. Kathy Klesto couldn't be here today. She is working with Huron right now to address some issues, but we're bringing this forward today because there are some things that Workday is doing with double dipping, if you will, and it's impacting our students for advisement and for graduation. Amy?
Thank you, Colleen. I have to give a lot of credit to particularly the general studies ISSs who have collected a lot of information over the last couple weeks and have assisted a lot of students and as well as other faculty on this issue that's come up. They've done a ton of work. and really are committed to trying to help students through this and the institution as a whole to try to come up with the best solution. So what we were seeing was that there was some instances of double, sometimes instances of triple dipping of SUNY Gen Ed requirements into program requirements. So it's not so much that the Gen Ed requirements are double dipping, it's the fact that they are double dipping into program requirements. So it's putting students in a situation where some of their classes are being pushed into the unused registration areas. And as we all know, those unused registrations financial aid does not cover because that's not part of the academic progress screens in Workday. The other part of this too is that it's shorting students required of credit hours to complete their programs. So while they might not be an issue this semester, because if they're a new student, they have plenty of places to put those courses, they may be an issue as we move forward in their academic career here towards graduation. So we're seeing this as a linking issue, that some of the program changes were made with the catalog changes. We have met with administration on this, particularly Kathy, and talked to her at length. And I've been collecting information from various programs, not just general studies. Social sciences, computer sciences are sending me IDs of students and screenshots of situations so that we're able to address them and bring them forward. Part of this process is doing overrides for students, which is pretty cumbersome and leaves a lot for human error in that process too. So I know Kathy is very much aware of this situation, and she is, last I had heard through the grapevine, is working with Huron to try to find a resolution as soon as possible, particularly before spring registration starts.
Perfect, thank you. So what is happening, just to give you a visual, because I'm visual. So students are logging into Workday, and you know how they have their little progress circle? That's a green circle. Well, the green circle's lighting up all the way around to 100%, or very close to 100%, except for they only have 45 credit hours, right? We need at minimum 60 credit hours for a degree, right? Unless obviously they're in a certificate program or something like that, that it's different, right? But if, so we are bringing this forward today because you need to be aware as faculty and advisors that if a student were to log in and they see the green circle and yes, I can register for graduation, that may not actually be the case. So what's happening is something that is fulfilling a general education requirement is also counts towards a degree requirement, which is fine, but it's the credit hours that are counting twice, right? So the math can't count twice. You can't get 3 and 3 and pay, you can't get 6 and pay for 3, right, is what it is. So we can check some boxes about requirements, but we can't double count the credit hours, and that's what's happening with Workday. So everyone needs to be aware of it. And as far as I know, and you can correct me, Amy, and I know Michelle's here too, there is not a report that we can run on Workday that will actually section out the students that are impacted by this. I see Andy shaking his head no too. Andy Heisey, thank you. So a lot of this is students that are they have to self-identify that this is a problem, right? You're gonna be working with them, advising them for the spring, and you might not know until that very moment. The student might not know until that very moment that that is a problem. So as Amy pointed out, I know our general studies ISS team has been doing a lot of overrides to correct some of the issues that we have right now. But if you come across a problem with a student, we need to let everybody know right away. I would imagine, I don't know, Amy, are you the contact for that?
Yes, I'd be happy to collect any information that you have, just so we can have it in a central repository and get this fixed as soon as possible, because like I said, in some instances, it's affecting students' financial aid now, but from a long-term perspective, it could affect graduation requirements. So, yep, that's not a problem. yoder@ecc.edu.
Great, thank you, Amy. Linda Perrell, and then Amy.
Hi, I just have a question. Is the IT department responsible for fixing the software program code to fix this problem, or is Workday supposed to be resorted to?
Huron is the group that's working with Workday, and I know that Kathy is with Huron right now. They are working on creating a sandbox to test these issues, and once the sandbox and the testing is worked out, they're going to be rolling it out to department chairs.
Also, just another question. Is this, this is something that could potentially happen again? Because we had a program change, right, with the diversity and equity, new categories and so on. So is there is there a process in place that they always monitor these kinds of things and make sure the software is working according to what it should be?
Yes, so Kathy, I talked to her at length about this yesterday. So Kathy said that faculty and department chairs are the experts in their field, and that it is up to us to make sure that we review our curriculum in Workday and make sure it's correct. And if it's not correct, you need to let IRAP Workday put a ticket in and let people know. Because if you notice that there's a problem in Workday, you have to let us know. So as faculty and experts in our areas, that is on us to make sure that it is correct in Workday, right? Because programming mistakes happen. It is what it is, right? So you need to look to make sure it's correct. Amy, and then Erickson, and then Brian.
So in regards to the financial aid, if a student is denied financial aid based on this happening, how is that being corrected, or even how is the oversight taking place? Because I know financial aid is continuously running, so it's not finished yet.
So Kathy, I'm just reading from her email. So she said the work will take time and the college must thoroughly document all financial aid changes. She asks that all communication with students explain that the college is doing its due diligence to ensure they receive all funding they are eligible for, and they apologize for the added stress and burden the situation may be causing. And if students are experiencing financial hardships as a result, to email IRAP. But the college is taking all necessary steps to ensure students' aid is made whole. Student success is the college's first priority, and when issues arise as a result of a college mistake, the college community can be confident that appropriate remediation will be investigated and acted upon. Erickson, you were next.
I have to ask Andy here if I can borrow the financial or the general education hat for a moment. Okay, good. The other thing I think that this highlights is a really great opportunity to distinguish between what is a program requirement versus a general education requirement as programs are having these conversations. I know the two seem complicated, and sometimes it is challenging to think of how those general education requirements, and even the way that they're named, right? So take, for example, the social science general education requirement in the knowledge area. How is that different than a course that's offered from our social science unit? And is that articulated in a way that is found within the academic curriculum? So I encourage these conversations to really specify between those. The timing is great, especially with the new gen ed knowledge areas and the requirements, to really have those conversations, and if it's clearly being delineated between those two.
Brian?
Yep, just to add, I think the reason we're having these problems is because of the new SUNY JED framework that got in effect for A and AS degrees. That's the reason we're having the Workday issues, because we updated the catalog. Huron took the catalog updates and made the updates in Workday based off of that. So yes, check Workday, but make sure your catalog page is correct. And if it's not, then please contact me or Kathy and anybody else. Yep.
Great, thank you. Michelle?
I just wanted to add that I think that the reason why we're having so many problems is that you're not supposed to go back into old catalog years and make corrections. When they're changing their curriculum, they're only supposed to move forward with the new curriculum and not try and build anything into the old curriculum, because essentially it could mess up the student's financial aid.
Right, and that is because old catalogs are essentially our contract with a student?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Andy Heisey, or Andy Anesi, sorry.
Just one other comment. Faculty may have noticed that if you go into an academic requirement in progress to do a override, there's another addition to the override options. It is remove course from requirement. So for students that are having financial aid issues because a course is falling into a category that it shouldn't, you can create an override, albeit it's not a long-term solution, but it would help the student. You can create the override and what they call remove course from requirement, where you actually type in the course that's counting where it shouldn't. Once that's approved by the dean, the course will get pulled out, progress will recalculate, and anything that's maybe an unused registration will fall into the requirement, thus allowing them aid.
Great. Is it possible for you to type that up and send it to me so that I can
Sure.
include that for faculty, especially since we're going to be moving into advisement? Michelle, and then Kim. Can you go to the mic?
I just wanted to add that you should really double check after you do the requirement, and that after the dean approves it, because then you could have courses coming from unused registration back down to your academic requirements, and they could all be double dipping again. So it's pretty common to do several different overrides over several different days. So it took me 10 days to correct one student's financial aid by doing overrides.
Wow. Thank you, Michelle. Kim?
With all of the situation that's happening and the changes that are going to be forthcoming and being made, will there be some thought to who has access to make these changes? There's a lot of people at the college who have access to do advisement, to adjust student schedules, to potentially override. Too many hands in the pot. So to some extent, will there be some limitation or some parameters set as to who is responsible for doing what and who's accountable for those changes and how oversight will happen?
Adium?
Sure. So part of the work is exactly that, Kim. It's really to understand why this is happening and how we are able to prevent future things of happening in this way. So we have a strategy to do that. We are working with Huron to really address this. We met with Amy and the advisors, I believe 2 weeks ago, to really address this. So part of it is going to require for all of us to really give an input when you are seeing some of these issues so we really can fix it. Because I want to remind us all, when Workday came to the college and how it was built in terms of the infrastructure of it was not always done right, or it was not also, it did not involve the right people, particularly faculty as it relates to by program area, because I was one of those individuals as a dean who were not part of that process. So part of the challenge that we're seeing is that the infrastructure of Workday and how it was built was not done the right way. So we're going back as well as moving forward at the same time, right? So we know the impact that it has on the students, and we don't want that, but we also have to go back, fundamentally fix it. So that's the work that's being done, is really recognizing that we need to change this fundamentally, not just on the surface. Surface is not gonna help us, but we really need to do that with that being thoughtful. So anything that you see and that you are having difficulty with, the more you give us that information, the more we're able to fix it and really address the fundamental issue of why we're dealing with Workday in this way that we are.
Great, thank you. Amy?
Is there a message or anything within Workday for those students who self-register so they're aware of the situation even more so? Because those students are definitely going to get impacted and not know what's going on.
So part of the work that we talked about is getting a list of those students, Amy, to really figure out how is the best way to communicate that, right? It's one, directly to the student, but also to those individuals who are advising those students so they understand what is happening and why. So we're working with financial aid, with the academic folks, right, to really talk to this, but also when is appropriate to communicate to the students in such a way that we're taking steps in action of how we want to resolve this. So we're working on that as well.
Michelle?
I just wanted to mention that we are working with a new person in Huron to make these changes. I don't necessarily agree with some of the decisions that have been made, but I would be open to having conversations with, administration and whatnot to work out some of these issues and perhaps just get it resolved somehow.
That's great. Thank you, Michelle. And we appreciate everything that the General Studies ISS team has been doing. I've talked to Michelle and Amy regularly about this issue in the last 2 weeks. And I know that they have been very focused on working for our students to make sure these things are addressed. And again, if you come across this issue, a similar issue with your students as you are working through advisement, again, the only way we can fix it is if we know about it. And Amy, thank you for taking on being the point person. So you can email Amy, and that's yoder@ecc.edu. And screenshots and things like that, whatever we can to help. And again, to reiterate the email I got and Amy's question about financial aid, the college is working to make it whole again for students that were negatively impacted in the financial aid aspect, and just communicate, right? And with our students that are self-advising, that's another thing that we're going to be working on with the Title III grant, is to do an advisement center and to talk with your students to get them in the door for advisement and maybe not self-advise, because again, that's where a lot of errors and things do happen. All right, so I'm going to move on to Chancellor's Awards. So last year, I did a whole thing and asked everyone to be excited and nominate people for Chancellor's Awards, and nobody did it. So I don't know what I have to do to get you all to recognize each other, but let's go, all right? There are amazing people that work here. You know it, I know it. Every single person in this room can name 5 to 10 people that are working their buns off for this college and for our students, and we're doing nothing about it, and I'm tired of it. Let's go, all right? We didn't have any awards last year, and I didn't yell at you last year, so now I'm yelling at you now, all right? It's ridiculous. So, librarianship. There's a librarian here. Tahira, you guys are working so hard to work with our students with a diminished staff, and they're in our classes, they're in our online classes, and doing all sorts of wonderful work. All right, so in librarianship, there's skill in librarianship, service to the college and the profession, and scholarship and continued professional growth. Excellence in professional service. And I want to point out, at all position levels, nominees can be individuals who serve as a professional role model for the university system in pursuit of excellence. All right, so within your position, beyond your position, right? The ideal candidate will satisfy the standards in a creative and innovative fashion while demonstrating flexibility and adaptability to institutional needs, i.e. our students' needs. Right? How many of you are putting students first and working hard for them? All of you, let's go, right? Excellence in scholarship and creative activities. This is conducted in addition to teaching by instructional faculty. So this one's for instructional faculty. Nominees should be individuals who have first scholarships, so research in the sciences, social sciences, and humanities. I can think of 3 faculty members that have gone above and beyond for scholarship and research in those areas. And we've actually recognized a few here at the Senate, but they have not received a Chancellor's Award. Creative productivity for the fine or performing arts. We just had a faculty member who was celebrated for humanities and was on our Facebook page. Brian Porter. I just pulled that out of there. Brian Porter, for example, congratulations for his creative productivity. All right, excellence in teaching. We have a nominee, a former winner right in front, Dave Uzinski. We've had Mary Graham, who also was a college senator for part-time. Skill in teaching. Additional consideration go to sound scholarship, demonstrated through publications or artistic productions, outstanding service to students, as well as service to the state university and the campus. All right, so teaching techniques and representative materials, scholarship and professional growth, student services. Friday, February 2nd, but Colleen, it's October. I know, I'm going to harass you until Friday, February 2nd. All right, so Colleen Onks is our new vice chair. So she will be working with Jackie Bossman, who is our FCCC rep, and they are our awards committee. So nominations can be emailed to Colleen. On the Senate site, there is, I don't know, I keep pulling this thing out like there's actually something that's going to help me there. Here's the guidelines. They're on the Senate site. I will also be sending them out. So eligibility criteria, the selection process is on there. Essentially, you need someone to nominate a person in those categories, right? And if you have an individual in mind, you can reach out to our awards committee, and then they can guide you from there. You need someone to do the nomination. You need some letters of recommendation from other people that this person works with that can be outside of their department. And then a resume of sorts and a few other artifacts. It's really not, oh, Stephanie Schwarmack is also, another one of our Chancellor Award winners for the college. So let's get this done. It's not, we got months to do this, let's do this. Marianne Partee, Center Professional Development.
Thank you. Do you want to pull up the document?
Maybe. Hang on. I do. I just got to get it. Give me a second. There it is.
Okay, thank you. Notice that for the opening day, January 10th, 2024, it's a Wednesday. It is a date that is established with negotiations, and it is on the academic calendar. I've had requests from some, should we change the date, and that's not something that is in the arena for professional development. So look at that on the academic calendar, please. The title, Student Success and Empowerment with Co-Curricular Movement, is what the agenda theme will be for the day, and we'll talk about that as we go through it. You could see the scheduled lineup for the morning. We will have morning breakfast as usual. We will start the program at 8 o'clock. Notice it will be at North Campus. And we will start with our officer in charge, Dr. Audium Sagai. We will also then have some words and updates by our SUNY Erie Board Trustee, Jeff Stone. Moving forward, after that, we will get into our academic concerns, many of them which came up today. So the morning will be a general information for college-wide assistance. When you look at the general education curriculum new requirements, we've talked about that. Andy has talked about that. The last 2 or 3 maybe, college day or opening days. It is enforced. It was mentioned today with the AAS. So if you're there that day, some of these questions that came up regarding how courses fit into knowledge areas or general education requirements might be clarified a little more for you at that time. The other that we'll follow up with is the SUNY Transformation Grant and Title III Initiative and Student Support. It was mentioned today that those grants have been received. If you look at that in the next, we will look at the Director of Transformational Grant, Title III Grant Initiatives and Advisement Model. So with those two, what we're really saying is, as Dr. Sagai mentioned, we have this huge amount of money that has been granted to this institution. With that being said, we have to make sure that the way it is spent is on initiatives that will service students. I think we'll have an update on how some of that has been decided by the time we open up in January. Is that possible, Dr. Sagai? So we have those grants, but we will start to see, and you will hear how the decision has been made to divvy up into different categories for student success and wraparound services. just as it said, you look at the transformation grant, some of that will be a model similar to EOP, but it's not EOP. It's not a replication of what we already have. So those are really important issues. Today, there was a lot of conversation about course, full-time, what is happening with students with full-time, what happens when they drop. And I think these grants are allowing for more assistance to be made that will address some of these concerns because there will be help on the way. Is that correct? Okay. So you want to be part of that. Again, we recognize that there's a need to talk about financial aid and FAFSA. The committees will meet before then, but you'll have updates. And again, a lot of those concerns are things that are in the forefront of faculty and counselors of how the changes are affecting students. So we should have an update from financial aid, how it affects FAFSA, and how the changes in student schedules should be addressed to meet their financial needs. So those are important things that will be there. Moving on to that, we'll have a presentation from Career Services and IT with Linda Donaldson. If you haven't had a chance to look at her IT talk, you probably should or recommend that your students do. It's an excellent service that's being granted. Some of her board members come on, and what it really does is helping the students to look at what they need to do for their careers. We keep talking about success, but the IT talk literally allows for students to recognize how their resume may catch attention. That's what IT talk is. It is really about knowing the key words that you want to put in your resume, students want to put in the resume so that you be considered, because you know everything is automated, and a lot of times people are qualified for jobs, but if their resume doesn't hit those key words, they won't even be considered because, you know, AI, people aren't just going through 50 applications for a job. So that's an excellent tool that is available to students, and we have faculty right in-house that are helping to make that possible for students along with the career services and the counselors. The other thing, we'll have SGA and student athletes will be part of the morning topic, and then we'll have lunch and networking at 11:30. I wanted to bring this up to you because if you look at the afternoon, you want to move that up a little, please? Okay. The afternoon session is available for divisions, counseling sessions, librarians, college-wide. People that know things need to be addressed in their areas can go ahead and present and hold sessions for the afternoon. I've gotten a lot of concerns from our colleagues, faculty, staff, likewise, that there's certain things they would like to make available. So we're going to look at that with division heads, department chairs, academic leaders, staff, and who's in charge of curriculum. We are going to hold a meeting on October the 18th. It will be WebEx from 3 to 4. So if you're interested, if you know your area, your division needs to work on something, that will be the time for us to start to look at how we will schedule and plan that afternoon session. So I hope that many of you are on that so we can move forward so that the afternoon session is meaningful to those that want to spend time moving their department to meet student success. Any questions? So again, the WebEx will be October 18th. That's a Wednesday. It will be virtual, 3 to 4, so we can discuss college-wide what you would like and who is interested in leading those afternoon sessions.
If anyone's interested in attending, Marianne, should they email you directly?
They can email CPD.
Is it cpd@ecc.edu?
Yes. Okay. And if you decide at the last minute, you can still pop on. But I would like for division heads, department heads, chairs, those that are really uniting their area to be on that call, to brainstorm so that the afternoon sessions could be planned. We want to get this planned sooner than later. Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, does anybody have any other new business to bring up? Yep.
Colleen, I just want to check in with the faculty resource directory. If we can maybe add it to quick links on my ECC, maybe the homepage. My coworker recently did an evaluation, and she was looking for the evaluation form. So it was on the directory, but she had to go to the human resource page for it. So.
All right, perfect. Thank you. So what she's referring to is the faculty snippets that we had developed, and we'll work with, I don't know, I'll send a help desk ticket in to try to figure out where we're going to stick it on the website so it's easy to access. Thank you. Any other new business? Okay, so what I'm going to do quick is the next College Senate meeting is in November. Hang on, I forgot when it is. November 14th. So we'll be back in this room at 2:30 p.m. But before we dismiss everyone, we'll turn off the cameras and do our town hall portion of the meeting to discuss anything or any questions or anything like that that we need to have addressed by the November 14th College Senate meeting. Okay, so thank you. So hold on while we turn off the stream.